Everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. So, we're excited to have you here as we dive into a topic that has been on everyone's mind: Google's AI changes and what they really mean for your local search visibility. So, we're lucky to have our very own Dane Seville with us today. Dane is an internationally recognized local SEO speaker and the producer of an award winning podcast known for both its hosting and content. He previously led our local SEO department here at SearchLab, but he was promoted to guide our brand experience across the board. With his deep expertise, he's the perfect person to help us navigate these changes so that we could stay ahead of the game. So without further ado, let's jump in. Dane, over to you.
Thanks, Brandy. I appreciate that. Everyone, thanks for joining us today. And, it's one of the most important things I think we can talk about in this age of search, because there's a lot of advice and information, some of it bad, not necessarily maliciously bad, but people not necessarily really doing their due diligence to fully understand everything that's going on. So let's go ahead and get started as more people I see are joining. But, Brandy already kind of did that for me. Director of Brand Experience, host of the More Than You Can Chew podcast, which we're going to be relaunching here in the next few weeks. A lot of great guests like Dana D. Tommaso, Melissa Pop, Greg Giffords, SearchLab's own, a number of great folks that I think are going to bring a lot of great advice to the ecosystem. International speaker, local SEO content, former director of SEO, former agency owner. So I was a co-founder of my own agency, grew it to more than 150 plus clients, and a former pro wrestler, if you didn't know that. So a little bit of background about me if you've not joined one of my webinars before. So what's happening? What's going on in terms of how search is evolving? And I know that the title is about Google's AI changes, but what's even happening by the numbers in sort of AI search at large? So let's take a look. Right? Yext AI search archetypes report 50% of their respondents prefer search engines for personal, medical, or financial research. So when they're making decisions about their lives, when they're looking up personal needs that they have, medical needs that they have, 57% of respondents across age brackets, across several continents prefer traditional search engines. 48% of the respondents verify answers across multiple platforms. So even if they're using even Google or ChatGPT or Perplexity, 48% are then going to another platform to see what answers they get to help verify that information they're getting. Because only 19% trust AI results versus 45% who trust search engine results. Lastly, I shouldn't say lastly, but next, per SparkToro, a data and research company, Google's market share, 93.57%. So yeah, you're seeing about 1 billion searches on ChatGPT. Google's is like 43 billion a day. So, Google still has that lion's share, of the market. But does that mean that's going to be in perpetuity, forever? I mean, no one really knows that, but we can say for the foreseeable future, Google's definitely still that major market you want to have visibility around. And of course, they're adapting to the market as well, which we'll talk about today with AI overviews and AI mode and just sort of how those systems work. Google's search volume last year grew by 21%. So despite these other entrants of other platforms and other ways which people are conducting searches, Google search still grew. And then Google search-like prompts, meaning the prompts, so not all prompts entered into like a ChatGPT are for searching, right? It might be to help write text. It might be to create an image. There's all sorts of different types of prompts that are happening on these platforms. But in terms of search-like prompts, Google processed 373 times more search-like prompts than ChatGPT. So I want to give that context that's why we're still talking, like today we're talking about Google's AI. Yes, we're going to make references to other AI LLM platforms as well, but we want to really focus on Google right now, right? And then our own research. I personally looked at 1,600 local queries ranging from transactional to informational. AI overviews populated 3% of transactional queries and equally 29% of commercial and informational queries. So 3%, about a third of, or 3% of transactional, about a third of commercial and informational. You might go, Dane, why are we worried about AI? Well, that's because it's growing, right? This was a study done back in March. It's already grown since then. I actually would not think it would be as low as 3% for transactional at this point in time. I've even seen some transitions, such as when you look for, like best car dealership near me, Honda car dealership near me, a new car dealership near me. Those used to not trigger them. Now I'm starting to see a smattering of those triggering AI overviews. So it's growing. And then lastly, you go, well, look, okay, it's growing. Do I as a local business even have a chance at being a citation for AI overviews? 96% of all those queries that triggered an AI overview, 96% had a local business as a top 3 citation. So yes, you as a local business, when you craft content and you strategize and you optimize in the right way, you absolutely have an opportunity to be one of those top citations. So it doesn't sound like much is changing. And I went through and I gave a ChatGPT a picture of me. I said, create different versions of me. This is Stern AI Dane. Because with all that said, it sounds like I'm trying to tell you that things aren't different. No, this doesn't mean all is the same. You need to understand the issues. You need to understand how these AI systems work. And you need to respond with your strategy. So don't put words in my mouth and say that Dane said it's all the same as before, because it's not, right? We just want to set the stage for that, the growth of it, and that people are still by and large turning to Google, because there's a lot of hype and a lot of scare about, oh my God, I have to focus on ChatGPT. No, a lot of these systems work in the same way too. So what we're going to talk about today with how Google's AI works, it's largely true for other systems as well. At least that's a very, very safe assumption. So out of this, what are the major issues? What are the things happening that are really bothersome with the sort of information being spread in the ecosystem of digital marketing SEO? Well, first, you're going to have your GEO, snake oil salesman, right? Forgive his, his strange hand, right? It's an AI image, but there's going to be people who are promising you, number one, they know how AI ranks, right? They know how AI systems rank you. False. They're going to say, look, we're going to layer on a geo service to your account, right? We're going to do SEO, but we're going to layer on geo for an extra cost, or we're going to layer on geo as just a free service. We're going to talk about why, right? So there's a lot of snake oil out there where people are making claims that really just aren't true, or at least misleading at best. So not true at all at worst, misleading at best. And we're going to talk about how and why some of those things are happening. So, things are so vastly different now, right? I mean, we got to have geo services because, well, we got to focus on conversational search. We have to focus on long tail queries. We have to focus on how people are expanding their searches and looking for things. Well, we've done that in SEO for quite a while. And if not, if your agency or internal team is not focused on conversational search, vastly growing queries, breadth of variance, well, you weren't getting SEO services, then good SEO services to begin with. But we have to optimize content. We have to change the medium, the format, right? The AI systems pull in video and infographics and text and all this information. We have to optimize it so they can find it, so it's structured well. That's SEO. Oh, but Dane, we have to do entity building, right? Knowledge graphs, and there's all these things that AI systems leverage to learn about who you are as a business. SEO. See where I'm going with this? Information architecture, HTML, right? The way the site is coded, the schema markup that you have in addition to the HTML, all these different things. Well, SEO. Now, consistency. You need to have consistency for those generative engines to understand who you are, where you're at, what your information is, so they don't hallucinate and fill in the gaps. It's SEO. So let's not get ahead of the curve here and go, oh, these agencies or these people, consultants are offering geo services. We're going to tell you how you rank in AI systems, because number one, those systems don't rank things. And number two, geo services are largely really just, it's SEO. It's just people trying to leverage the hype to create something new that is really not something new. Anyone remember these? Well, they still exist, so I hope you remember them. People also ask, right? You crafted content succinctly and had additional information to capture more types of searches. Well, query fan out for geo services, right? And we'll talk about what query fan out is, right? Featured snippets. You structured your content so you answered succinctly a particular question someone is looking for, so the search algorithm could extract that and put it above the #1 ranked SERP. Featured snippets, we've been doing it. Image patch, you mean that we need to have multimedia on our sites? We've been doing that. So, if you've been in this business for a hot second, you realize that hopefully that, there's a lot of buzzwords and a lot of silver bullets being promoted that really are just very quite misleading and aren't going to really move the needle for you, or like I said, or being deceptive. Here's some things we shouldn't talk about. All right, here's disgruntled AI, Dane. Again, I gave AI, I said, make me look tired and disgruntled. Keyword ranking. Disgruntled tired AI Dane says, can we please stop talking about keyword ranking as monumentally important and a metrics of success to share in monthly calls like at least 5 years ago, especially for local search? Number one, people's search behaviors influence ranking. Their engagements on websites. Again, I already said their search history, their proximity to the business. Keyword ranking tools they're all an approximation. Even Google Search Console, your average position is an average position for that one query that they're showing you. So again, keyword ranking has not been can you leverage it to make decisions and understand that you're making progress? Yes, but I mean, if you're working with an agency who's pitching you on, we're going to get you ranked for this number of keywords, or look, you're ranking #1 for this keyword. This is an extremely outdated approach. Let's stop talking about keyword ranking as this thing that is proving that you're winning the game. And number two, this doesn't even matter in AI systems really, and we'll talk about why. But disgruntled tired AI Dane isn't just worried about keywords. He's tired about hearing about simply more traffic. Look, just like Walter from the Great Big Lebowski could get the do to toe, I can focus on getting you more traffic, but that makes me as disgruntled as Walter is, right? We're seeing deprecation of traffic. We really have to stop talking about the idea of traffic growth because of AI systems consuming that traffic. We're going to talk about what we need to focus on, but more traffic really isn't it. Traffic to the right places we could talk about, but overall, just holistically, oh, look at this chart, you're getting more traffic, is really not something that's going to yield success in where we're at in search. So let's stop talking about that. Simply more content. This one really gets Dane disgruntled and tired. If writing or using LLMs to simply regurgitate based on their training data to create thousands of words across dozens of pages every week that add no more value to the billions already out there sounds like the right strategy for you, then I'm not the right guy for your terrible strategy. More content does not equal more results. More content does not mean better content. Often more content is worse content. I understand, right? For the past 20 years, we've been talking about flooding the market. We got to put out more content out there. But there's so much out there. We need to be more discerning about how we have value add content for consumers and that's value add content for these AI systems. So let's stop talking about more. Let's start talking about greater quality, right? So these are some of the things that really bother me. So if these are what bothers me, let's talk about how this works. You said, Dane, keywords really don't matter. Traffic's getting deprecated. What do we got to do? How do these systems work, right? What do we have to do to be successful? So this is from Mike King, brilliant guy, dove into Google Patents. There's no reason for me to dive into Google Patents and try to reinvent what he's already discovered. But it used to be that you would enter a keyword into a search engine, and Google would then look in the corpus of documents related to that topic and find, based on like keyword density and structure and everything, what is the best piece of content to then rank, right? And then it ranks pieces of content. That's not how these systems work. Number one, you enter a query in Google for AI overviews that might trigger, or AI mode, or ChatGPT, or in Gemini, right? The system receives the query. So now, using like a RAG system, retrieval augmented generation, right? It retrieves contextual information, right? Now it's looking for where are the pieces of information, not entire documents. where are the pieces of information that best satisfy this sort of crux, clear core intent. And it starts to generate an initial output, right? It understands on the surface what you're asking. And it looks, again, it doesn't look for entire documents. It looks for passages, lines, different formatted content. It starts to generate that as an output. But then it generates synthetic queries, query fan out. I said we'd talk about it. And there's a number of different things to query fan out. So there's related searches. So semantic or categorically related to the core search. There's implicit, so inferred from your previous behavior, even the LLM's reasoning ability to try to infer what implicitly you need. And I'll have some examples of that as well. It uses comparative. Are you trying to compare something? It uses recent queries. It uses your search history. It's personalized based on your location and just general interests you've shown. And then even reformulation, like rewrites of that query. So if you, for example, like if you look up, best SUV, what do you mean by best? Do you mean best, is that gas mileage that matters to you? Is it safety rating? So then will that be more the semantic? Excuse me, that'd be more the semantic. So best SUV is reformulation would be, what is the best SUV? Or best 2025 top ranked SUVs, right? So other rewrites of that core query, right? So then we're not done yet. See, that's why I got a little lost in my thoughts because there's so much to it, right? Then it classifies your intent. So what is the intent that you're trying to do? Is it a short fact? Is it you're comparing, you're trying to reason something, you're getting a definition? Is it true or false? And then what format is best for the answer? Is it video? Is it text? So it applies more systems to it, right? So now it selects specialized LLMs. It's kind of like how we used to talk about local search versus traditional search. You had your traditional algorithm, your local algorithm. Well, now there are different modes in the LLM that are best applied to the intent and format that's best suited for you. And now it applies generate reasoning chains. So it's trying to better understand it's trying to formulate a better final response by going through reasoning itself. Then it starts, that helps synthesize that final answer. And then it uses user embeddings. This is the final application of prior queries, of clicks and where you've gone to on websites, again, of interest and interactions and even other signals we don't know about. Then after all that, it's extracting it's parsing all those different pieces, formulating those citations, and gives you that response, right? So there's a lot more to it than just find documents that match that keyword. It's trying to dig in and understand both explicitly and implicitly what you are trying to discover in that search. So it's much more nuanced, and there are things we have to ensure are being done. So how do we make disgruntled, tired Dane happy and excited, right? Let's turn this boat around. So number one, strong foundational SEO. Well, duh, of course we need highly effective title tags and headings and context and alt text and images and URI strings and schema markup. Yes, foundational SEO still matters to AI, right? It helps it understand more precisely what this content is about. So when you talk about geo, look, we're talking about optimizing things according to best practices, having the right signals in place consistently across the page. And in the age of AI, people are asking about, what do I need to do for AI? People still aren't even getting fundamentals right as we do audits and look at websites. It's incredible. So focus on a strong foundation, right? Here's an example of a local real estate team. Their title tag was their branded name, the blank team. Of course, I don't want to embarrass anybody, right? And then they have these headings, right? Headings matter. Structure matters. I'm jumping the gun because I have a slide about this. Structure matters. Semantic HTML, meaning header tags, title tags, paragraph tags. Semantic HTML is important. So the way you structure the content, you're creating that hierarchical signal significance. And then those headings and things have to make sense, right? Each one making every square foot feel right. What the hell does that mean to an AI when it's trying to understand the page, what the page is about? Pittsburgh, you're at home with us. Our listing's hot on the market. claimed and closed our sales portfolio. Like, come on, like, let's get serious about what we're doing here to make things right. And then you can see that the coding of the image that was embedded on the page, and there's not even any alt text period. So strong foundational SEO is vital, and we need to get better about it before we worry about, you know, these new AI systems, even as they, again, penetrate more and more of search. Query found out information gain. Happy, excited, Dane. Yeah, I love crafting content that addresses a variety of types of subqueries based on the primary search query. Again, primary query, but then the AI system starts to try to understand implicitly what it is that you're trying to derive, and then uses your search history to understand even better to create a more substantive answer that captures as much semantic and expandable relevance. You want to answer that core question, but then you need to anticipate what are the other things this person, this consumer might need, might wonder, might ask about, anticipate it, and understand, do I need to flesh out my page more? Or is now the intent getting a bit different? That now I need to create a new page of content that I can interlink to send them on their journey deeper into the site. Right? But never write more than you have to just for the sake of it. There are a lot of agencies out there who are going to, like, they tell you, like, we're going to give you 10 pieces at 3,000 words each. And not every piece of content merits 3,000 words. In fact, most don't. It depends on the intent of the search. But what they're going to do is they're going to have you pay for those 3,000 words. And there's going to be a lot of what I call fluff garbage in there. And I've written about it on the SearchLab blog, fluff garbage. It means I'm just padding the content with just other unnecessary information to fill it. And they're making you pay for it. So focusing on the consumer, trying to understand implicit needs, looking at things like, look at what people are saying in reviews about your business, about competitors. Look at other nearby markets of what people are saying in reviews. Look in Quora and Reddit. Leverage those user-generated content areas. Go on Google Maps where there's still the Q&A showing and see if there are any authentic questions being asked. Yeah, you can still do keyword research, but you need to use people also ask. Or answer the public as well. There's lots of tools out there. You need to understand semantically, contextually, categorically, all the different ways in which you can capture more of what people are saying, and then align your language on that page of content to have a greater similarity to the way people are asking about that product or service. We can talk a lot about embeddings and cosine similarity, but essentially, how closely do you align the language and context on your page with the many ways and needs in which people are searching for things? That's what gets me excited about content. So this is not going to cut it, right? Information gain, right? This is the entire piece of content. This is the entire blog about the redesigned Honda Passport, right? It talks about offering a boxier appearance, updated grille design. What's the grille design? Right? New wheel options. What are the wheel options? Right? It gives me one about the Trula Sport Trail Sport. I couldn't read that for a second. Trail Sport option. Right? And then that's all the information I get about the Trail Sport. Well, implicitly, how does that Trail Sport differ from the other trim levels? Not just tell me what Trail Sport has, but even comparatively what they don't have. Why are these new wheel options better? What are the other pieces of information I would need to make a decision about why I would want to discover more about the Honda Passport? This ain't gonna cut it. One of the things that makes Dane happy and excited, be the tour guide. He says, one of my favorite things is to understand people's needs and lead them to the next most logical spot they need to go. So that kind of goes back to query fan out, but it's different too, right? You'll often see, and I have an example I'll show you, you'll often see either a page of content that has like 75 links going everywhere on the website. Bad. You'll also see where, we're talking about failure to, this is on a lawyer's website, failure to yield the right of way. So what is failure to yield the right of way? I think it was like the only link was the truck accidents. Well, if I'm wondering about legality, right? What is the failure to yield right of way? I'm probably wondering more about what is the legal consequence if I fail to yield the right of way. That would make more of a sense for an internal link to send me to, or maybe that's information gain on the page. But regardless, that is absent here in this piece of content. They link to truck accidents because, well, they have a trucks accidents page. Trucks, you drive, you can fail to yield the right of way in a truck. Garbage. Or the second example below that, another law firm, no links on the page at all. Not sending them anywhere. Makes no sense. So be the tour guide and understand, okay, structurally, contextually, intellectually, where can I send them on a next step to keep them on my site and demonstrate more of my expertise, showcase more of my unique selling propositions. Readable content. Happy, excited AI Dane. Nobody loves using good semantic HTML, ordered lists, short, punchy paragraphs directly related to their headlines more than I, right? When you have headlines, and I said I jumped the gun earlier, right? It was like, Pittsburgh loves this and that. They were all headlines. There's no context that would follow that, right? Instead of using design elements, they're using headers to make it stand out and be bold, right? So be smart about your headers. Be smart about how you're structuring your content. Have context that follows each header that's directly related to what that header is previewing. Use ordered lists, whether they're numbered or bulleted. Use charts and graphs. Use dynamic information and use good semantic HTML. Here on this page, you can see in the inspect tool, it's all div. No, we want semantic HTML where we have header tags, H1, H2, H3. We have paragraph tags, right? We have titles. We are missing all of this information buried in all this div garbage that we could clean up a whole lot better and make a whole lot nicer for search engines, AI, to understand this content more cleanly, more clearly. And then you can see just big blocks of text. That's not good setup. That's not good readable content. You can see there's not even an H1 on the page. And despite these looking like headers, right? Again, now they're just applying, sizing to the text, right? The only two headers are the first heading on the page and then the recent posts box at the bottom of the blog to then look at other recent posts. Make sure the content is readable. Again, these fundamental principles of good SEO are going to help you with visibility in AI search. Efficient site architecture. Now, happy, excited AI Dane said, I always hated getting lost, right? When I'm driving my car, I hate getting lost. So yeah, it makes sense to have a strategically built overall architecture to the site with items in the right subdirectories, right? The right folders on the site. And like I said about being the tour guide, internal linking, being thoughtful about the customer journey. This will be useful when the AI agents take over the planet too. So think about site architecture. Now, it's hard to get a screenshot of good site architecture, but even just basically fundamentally thinking about being able to capture it on a screen here in a simple screenshot. Even just looking at your navigation, right? Either showing that there's almost no architecture to the site or having everything in there, right? And it's good. Menus being overwhelming or underwhelming is a whole other conversation, but it gives you a preview of sort of how things are laid out in terms of architecture. So make sure even fundamentally from the menu, from the home page, we have a sort of fan out that makes sense for the customer journey on the site and how things are segmented and built out on the site itself. Links and brand mentions. Happy, excited AI Dane says, whoa, you're totally in love with seeing your name and having people tell others that your content is killer? Me too. Links are important, right? There's a lot of agencies that no longer really do links because they say, oh, links aren't as important. Links are vitally important, right? And as a local business, local links are important. And I know there's going to be a lot of agencies that'll poo-poo that and go, oh, you're going to link from the Chamber of Commerce? That doesn't really matter. Or from you sponsored this tournament. You're getting links from other entities. You're getting your brand mentioned usually too. It's usually not just a link. It's usually a description of the business that you are. Other things too. And I get pushback, and our team has gotten pushback from partners where we go, look, there's this great sponsorship opportunity. And I know that costs money. And I know it's not fun to pay more money when you're paying for a service to get visibility. But sponsorships, being involved in the community, some are free, some are paid. Be a hosting site for a Toys for Tots drive. Locally here in Pensacola, Florida, which is where I'm at, there's the Pensacola Daily Journal. Volunteer to write an article for their website. Then you get your byline. You can add in your company's information. You're building your brand name. Make sure you have a good digital and PR outreach and PR campaign as well. That's a great layer onto SEO. So links, brand mentions. Make sure that people are talking about you. Here's something that no agency can control. Only you can as the business owner. Do something so good for customers that they go on Facebook or they go on Quora or they go on Reddit and they write about you. They talk about your business and what a good experience they had. User-generated content is monumental right now. So get people mentioning you on these other forums and platforms. It's really, really, really important to do stuff like that. Get involved, get good experiences. I actually showed, I forget what conference I was speaking at, but I showed that there was a local used car dealer here in Pensacola. And one of the things that they do is when you purchase a car, they give you a fresh homemade hot apple strudel. There were about 15 different threads on Reddit from people, or 15 different entries in a thread from people talking about this business in various ways, positive, all of them positive, and all mentioning that apple strudel. Simple little thing, but you're getting real world people to mention and talk about you more. Reviews. Happy, excited. Hey, Dane. Oh, man. Similar to links and brand mentions, I actually love it more when real world people write good stuff about me, especially when they're super specific. So reviews. Number one, even before AI overviews penetrate more transactional searches or Google makes the pivot to just AI mode being default, there's even review justifications, meaning if someone writes a review and they mention something specific, right? You offer handyman services, or and they came and fixed the toilet, right? Toilet repair. Like Dane came in and he was an excellent repairman, fixed my toilet. And then someone types in like fixed toilet repairman. Right? When you have language that matches language in reviews, it's a review justification. It doesn't help your overall ranking, but it can help you show up visibly in the local pack, because there's a justification for why it's being shown, because language in a review about how it's positive matches what people are looking for. But beyond that, we know that AI mode uses reviews, right? Best car dealerships in Pensacola, Florida. What do they source? Google. Those all go to Google business profiles. So reviews, plus ChatGPT. ChatGPT uses Yelp, Facebook, BBB ratings, even other like industry-specific review sites. So diversify your reviews as well. Yes, you absolutely want reviews on Google Business Profile. But again, when we talk about adoption of other platforms, you don't want to just ignore them. Diversify reviews, right? And that will even help you with Google too, because you're going to have more entities, right? You're going to have more sort of pieces of information in the ecosystem that mention you, talk about you, and it feeds that data, right? You're feeding more and more data from that user-generated content. So it's important to get reviews. They've always been important, right? There's never been a time in local SEO where reviews weren't important. They're more really important than ever. So focus on conversions. So happy, excited AI Dane says, wait, their agencies still talking about keywords and traffic than conversions? Imagine that, putting more emphasis on their own vanity than delivering more business to their clients. Focus on conversions. I was actually speaking to another SEO today for the podcast, and we were talking about what was called the great decoupling. You go into Google Search Console and you're seeing more impressions and fewer clicks. Well, if you're seeing more impressions, really, when you talk about how AI systems work and not getting those clicks, if you're getting vastly more impressions, you should see an increase in conversions. You should see an increase in brand mentions. Go to Google Search Console, see that there are more branded search, more direct search coming to your site through GA4. But ultimately, conversions. What are we trying to do? We're trying to get more people to identify your business as the business they want to offer their business to, their money to. So we want to make sure we have more of a focus on conversions and less about traffic, right? Again, traffic to the right places, right? Traffic to your moneymaker pages, maybe more precisely when they're low funnel, because that means that people are typing in searches where they have more an incentive to want to click through from AI search. But if you're losing clicks just overall comparatively to last year, but your conversions are up, sounds pretty good to me. So let's pay attention to the right types of metrics. But as I said, you shouldn't ignore everything outside of Google. So you need to know some other things, right? I said not everything is the same. You have other considerations as well. And this is true for Google Gemini, right? So, Gemini, ChatGPT, so all these LLMs like Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, right? You should have a perspective on what those LLMs know about your brand. What are your strengths? What information do they have about you? Are there inaccuracies? Where are those inaccuracies coming from? You should have insights about how your brand is compared to your competitors. What are their strengths compared to yours? Do they have greater visibility and more strengths around the core products or services that you also have? Well, how can we fix that? And so that way, in that line of thought, you should be able to have a detailed action plan for how to influence these and boost your visibility, fix those gaps, have greater data fed to these LLMs so they understand you better and your value propositions better. And that could be as simple as more context on your homepage, more insights about your unique selling propositions. Why buy from you instead of someone else? There's 8 other options. There's like 6 Ford dealerships around me. Why should I choose that particular Ford dealership? There are dozens of personal injury attorneys here in Pensacola. Why should I choose your law firm? So it's about feeding more and more information precise to how you are the best fit to be mentioned, cited, prioritized in those citations and in those outputs compared to others. So know what they know about you, know how you compare to your competitors, again, across multiple LLMs, and have an action plan to address those. So also a focus on LLM visibility, right? Happy Excited Dane says, yeah, we definitely want to know what the LLMs know about our clients and have an action plan to follow out of that. And we'll soon get more into talking about share of voice and brand mentions too, right? Those are going to be other metrics we want to pay attention to. Share of voice in citations. How often are you being mentioned or used as a citation, right? There's all these new tools that are nascent tools that are going to be really useful to updating how we report, right? There's going to be more data to pull out and leverage to understand what success looks like. So yes, make sure you have some visibility around the LLMs, right? Understanding what they know about you, understanding your visibility within them. So again, that's a new thing, right? We don't have to worry about LLM visibility before. We don't have to worry about AI visibility, but now we want to make sure that they have the right information and enough context and information. So to summarize, number 1, beware of snake oil. Please, when an agency says we're going to add on geo services as a courtesy, or we're going to create, they said 6 pieces of content, we'll create 20. Again, more does not mean better. Maybe it is better, right? Maybe those 20 pieces maybe they have a killer writer on staff and they are going to slay it for you. Ask them not just volume, but what makes their content better. Make them talk about query fan out and user-generated content to feed information for crafting content and language, and talk about the information gain, and talk about similarity between language on the site and searches being conducted. Make them tell you these things before you just go, 20 pieces of content, that sounds like a deal. 2, your website still matters, right? Yes, there are going to be fewer people coming to it, but it's still a place that all these platforms use to understand your business and updates that happen about your business. So your website still matters. think topics and relevance, not keywords. You want to have topics covered for your site, not just keyword content. You want to have semantic, contextual, categorical, emotional relevance in your content for consumers, structured in a way that AI can parse it and understand it and leverage it and use you as a citation. Build that brand awareness. On and off-site local SEO fundamentals remain vital. Don't give up. Your GBP is really more important than ever, and on-site is just as important as ever. Content depth is greater than content frequency. Making sure that you have sufficiently answered as many explicit and implicit needs of the consumers you can in a single piece of content is better than creating just 8 pieces of content that cover a couple of different keywords. Your brand building is more important than ever. There are efforts that your agency can do. There are efforts that you can do. There are efforts you can do conjointly. There are efforts that you as a business can do independently, right? Again, that process post-lead. What is that sales process like for the consumer to get them talking about you? And then they're more likely to leave a review too, which, well, reviews are and honestly have been a crux to visibility in local SEO. Understand that success metrics of years past are not success metrics of today and certainly not of tomorrow. So make sure you're not talking about just traffic and keyword rank. Make sure you're having true conversations about how they're building visibility. What do impressions look like? What are conversions like? What are those branded search terms? What type of searches are driving content to what pages? And again, those low funnel pages are vital to success. And lastly, know what LLMs understand about your business and comparatively to other businesses. So thank you. I appreciate your attendance, and I know there's at least one question to look at, and so we'll get to that in a moment. I'm going to bring Brandy back up to the stage here to help me kind of close some things out, but I will get to those questions in just a moment. Brandy, welcome back up on the stage. Oh, I think you're muted there.
I am. Thank you. That was awesome. And again, thank you guys all so much for joining us today. Dane always brings such value to the table. I swear I learn from him daily. So again, thanks, Dane. And before we get to the good stuff, as you see, there is a QR code on your screen. But Dane, if you want to go ahead and just address this question, then we can, I'll go ahead and close this out here.
Yeah, there are two. So I'll get one here. Chanda. So I work for a local chamber of commerce. I've always been told that Google loves chamber websites because we're seen as a trusted source. Being a chamber member helps increase the SEO of our chamber members with keywords, etc. How will AI changes hurt this? It won't. Yes, as a chamber of commerce, you are a trusted entity in a market. And that's because, typically you vet businesses and you have those local businesses and you typically ensure like licenses and things are on the up and up. Totally a trusted source on the site. What you'd want to make sure is that on your chamber website, you have a very healthy description of all of your chamber businesses. Meaning, make sure that you have not just the brand name and just like a quick mention of their services. You don't have to write like an entire essay on it, but make sure you have the right details fleshed out that fully comprehensively and fully tell the story of truly who this business is, including those I mentioned, those value propositions. Like member chamber, you have, this one local business, what distinguishes them, right? And I know you go, well, then what about the other business that they're a member and they do similar services? Well, make them, I hope they have a unique value proposition or, from that other business, like what makes them unique. So challenge your chamber members to draft something that really details who they are, what they offer, and why they're different. So AI changes won't hurt this as long as you have those good descriptions and you're linking to your chamber members' websites. You're still giving them that equity as part of sort of the knowledge graph, that sort of entity of understanding of that business. The more that other reputable sites talk about them and describe them in the same manner, that's ultimately still going to help them in the age of AI. If you're vetting new marketing partners, what are the 3 biggest questions to ask of them? That's a good question. Things are evolving. I would ask them, number 1, I think the most important is, how do you measure success? And again, it goes back to if they're saying traffic, keyword ranking, that's not good. So I would ask them again, number 1, how do you measure success? Number 2, and because it's so important, especially in understanding that, another thing too we didn't talk about is, because we focus on Google and not necessarily like ChatGPT. I'm sure Google's not really similar, but talking about ChatGPT, there's confidence thresholds, meaning when ChatGPT is really confident in its answer to a response, unless of course you're using like deep research where it's going to search the web. Once it's confident answer, it doesn't link out anymore. Also with Google AI overviews, I often see content where it's like, how to winterize your boat. Well, that's been written about ad nauseum a billion times. Unless there's something unique that you're adding to about how to winterize your boat, maybe it's a special, boat coating or way you store it. Unless there's something truly different, you're not really you're just adding to a sea of sameness. So I would say, and that's a long tangent to say, I would ask them about what is typically their approach to content strategy, and how do they help? You can't guarantee it, but how do they help ensure that you're going to be cited in AI overviews, in AI mode, in LLMs? So what are your measures of success? How do you, what is your content strategy, and how do you help ensure that the content is differentiated and will be used as a citation? And number 3, that's a good one. Number 3, third biggest question, I would say would be, let's see, how do you focus on building out brand awareness? How do you focus on assisting us with brand mentions? How do you assist us with building LLM's understanding of who we are? And if they're not saying things like, well, as I said for the Chamber of Commerce question, have a really good, well fleshed out description of your business and put that everywhere. Put that, if you're a car dealer, put it on like Dealer Rater, put it on, if you have a cars.com profile, put it on your GVP, put it on, your homepage should reflect that, or About Us page should reflect that. So leverage that description in as many possible entities, right, pieces of information as possible, and be consistent. Again, we want to consistently feed that. So how are you helping us build brand awareness and brand consistency for LLMs? What are your measures of success? What is your content strategy, and how do you differentiate it? And what are you doing to help ensure that we be used as a citation? And then lastly, how important is my Google business profile if AI is pulling info from all over the web? Well, I showed you a screenshot. It uses Google business profile directly. And Google business profile, at least for Google, now there is evidence too. People, I've not seen it myself, but people have seen that even ChatGPT is using Google's index. So even ChatGPT, and I guess maybe certain circumstances, maybe not all, is using that index. So your Google business profile is a primary source of reliable information because, number 1, you go through a verification process. So naturally, Google trusts their own product. And then you have all that information there. And then you continue to feed it with new content like images and posts and things like that. And even though posts don't directly impact rank, you can still get people through them to your website, get more engagement signals. That is a direct ranking signal. When you have engagement signals, positive engagement signals on the site. So your GBP is absolutely vital to feeding that data for LLMs to understand you, and directly for Google AI mode to pull you in for different types of searches. And there we go, Brandy. I think we're set for you to go ahead and close on things on out.
Yes, thank you again, Dane. I just wanted to get those questions answered. So as a special thank you for you all attending today, we do have a exclusive offer. So you'll see the QR code on the screen. If you scan that and talk to our team about SEO or PPC, and you decide to sign up with us, you will receive $500. Yes, $500 off your first month. And I think the best part about SearchLab not only is our team, but we don't have any contracts here. So we want people to work with us because they want to, not because they have to. So again, scan that code. Here's your opportunity to kind of level up your online presence, and we're here to help you do that. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Dane, and we will see you on the next webinar.
Thanks, everyone.